I'm Rob Trasinski, and I'm running for Congress in Virginia's current 5th district and probably its future 6th district. And that's what I want to talk about right now. So, this is part two of my explainer on Virginia's redistricting. In part one, I talked about the overall context of what we're doing and why. In this part, I'm going to be specific about what it means for Central Virginia and the Shenandoah Valley, basically everything west of Richmond up into the mountains, and what it means for my own campaign. Now, I declared in December for the Democratic nomination for the 5th District, which is currently the area around Charlottesville and then down through Lynchburg to what we call Southside Virginia, all the way to the North Carolina border. Hanging over this the whole time was the prospect of redistricting. But we didn't know if it would happen. We didn't know when it would happen, and we didn't know what the new districts would look like. And we didn't even know when we would know. Look, I've got 30 years as a freelance writer under my belt. I know how to deal with uncertainty, so I was ready for this. But now we have a little less uncertainty. There's a referendum on redistricting where early voting has already started, and we'll get the answer on April 21st. I think it's going to pass because there are a lot of angry Democrats in the state who want to teach Donald Trump a lesson, and I can't say I blame them. See my previous video. This is about showing Trump and the Republicans that they can't rig the rules and get away with it. Also, we now have legislation moving the Democratic primary back to August 4th, no matter what happens. And early voting for the primary starts on June 19th. So start voting for me then, June 19th. And we have legislation laying out the new districts. They took the old 5th district, pulled out a bunch of Southside Virginia. That all goes into the one remaining Republican district. And then they kind of snake the new district over the Blue Ridge Mountains into the Shenandoah Valley with little ears going off to get towns like Waynesboro, Stanton, and Harrisonburg, but mostly going down to Roanoke and Blacksburg, which takes in a bunch of the old 6th district. And they put all of this together in a new 6th district. They're calling this the College District because it runs from UVA to Virginia Tech. Kind of funny when you consider the rivalry between the two. And it grabs a bunch of other colleges and blue cities in between. So James Madison University, Mary Baldwin, Sweetbriar College, Radford. That even includes Liberty University in Lynchburg. But it's still an urban area. So Lynchburg split almost exactly 50-50 in the last election, the governor's election, despite all the conservatives at Liberty. So that's our new 6th district if this referendum goes through. Here's the point at which I should probably be like the other candidates and put out a bland and carefully neutral statement. But if I were the kind of guy who does things like that, I would not be running at all. So I'm just going to lay out what I think. This is one of the reasons I have mixed feelings about redistricting. We're getting pretty much what you would expect from a gerrymander. It's a map drawn by people in Richmond, largely for the benefit of people in Richmond. And it's really remarkable how they managed to do it in a way that hurts every candidate in the 5th and 6th districts. I can't think of a single person out here who really benefits from it. The person it hurts most is our current 5th district incumbent, John McGuire, and I am not going to be crying any tears for him. It's not just because he's been a useless rubber stamp in office, though he has. It's not just because he refuses to hold town halls and face his constituents, though that's also true. It's because he got the Republican nomination in this district by stabbing another Republican in the back. So he has no right to complain when somebody plays rough politics. Now, why does this hurt McGuire? He lives in Goochland County, which is pushed into a new 5th district that includes a bunch of the Richmond suburbs. That is very unfavorable territory for McGuire, and there's a prominent Richmond Democrat ready to run for that district. He could try for the new 7th district, which runs from Louisa County all the way up to North Arlington, but that's even less friendly. There are a lot of angry federal workers up there who have been terrorized by the Trump administration for the last year, and John McGuire was cheering it on. Or he could run in the new 6th, but he would be up against yet another Republican incumbent, Ben Klein, who is now in his 4th term and deeply entrenched. So McGuire's out. He's toast. One term and done, and good riddance to him. But Klein doesn't do well either, because this was kind of the whole point of the redistricting. He doesn't even live in the new 6th district, and he's used to winning elections there with almost 65% of the vote, and now he'll be in a district that voted 51-48 for Kamala Harris in 2024. And things have shifted since then, so it's now probably more like a 55-45 Democratic district at the very least. So he's a dead man walking. And again, I'm not crying any tears for Ben Klein. He has also been a reliable rubber stamp for Trump. He voted not to certify the results of the 2020 election, and trying to overturn an election result is an unforgivable sin in my book. But most of all, like I said, he's used to winning here by a huge margin. So Ben Klein is probably going to complain that the new district is rigged, but he's really just complaining that it's no longer rigged in his favor. In fact, the new 6th district is going to be a whole lot more competitive, a whole lot less stacked toward one party or the other than the old 6th district was. And yet, while this redistricting is good for Democrats in general, the way it was done was not that great for the specific Democrats who are running. Charlottesville has a well-funded frontrunner, Tom Perriello, a long-ago former congressman and a kind of perpetual candidate for something, who now has to face another well-funded frontrunner, Beth Macy, and she's the favorite among the Democratic establishment in Roanoke. And Perriello didn't want to do that. He wanted to face people with less money, like me and Mike Pruitt. But it's also bad for Macy for the same reason, and it was bad for Mike Pruitt, another of the old 5th District candidates, because he saw these two big money challengers, Perriello and Macy, going against each other, and he was so similar to them that he was going to be ground to dust in between. So earlier this year, he dropped out of the race. Now, where does that leave me? Well, the where is significant, and we'll deal with that. But the new district doesn't really change my calculations, and it only really hurts me in one way. How it hurts me, the one way it hurts me is, well, there's no trying to avoid it because it's going to come out eventually. My house where I live, where I'm filming this right now, is put just a little bit outside the new district. I saw some of the earlier maps and it looked like the line was going to go right through my front yard, pulling almost half of Louisa County into the new district. But no, they drew the boundary at the county line. I suppose I could run in the new district that goes from Louisa County all the way up to Arlington. And that's not just in Northern Virginia, it's across the Potomac from Washington. But the rumor is that this district was created specifically for Dan Helmer. Now, Dan Helmer is a big muckety-muck in the House of Delegates in Richmond. He's run for Congress twice before, and it looks like they created a district especially for him on his home turf up in Fairfax County. Like I said, the people in Richmond were taking care of the people of Richmond, not thinking so much about the folks out here. Now, I kind of get why they did this. If you're going to do a gerrymander to get Democrats elected in these new districts, it's a good idea to make sure you've got strong Democratic candidates ready to go, especially since this is being done without a lot of time for new candidates to prepare. And Helmer is a strong candidate, and more to the point, he's a guy who's been very tough on Trump. He actually caused some controversy in his 2018 run for Congress with an ad that compared Donald Trump to Osama bin Laden. So that kind of reduces the rationale for me to run against him. But there's more to my decision than that. In a lot of ways, the center of gravity in my life is in this new 6th district. My kids have gone to school in Charlottesville. My wife went to grad school at UVA, which is what brought us here. And we sort of drew the rest of the family with us. So my parents live in Albemarle County. My sister and brother-in-law are down in Lynchburg. I've got a lot of connections to this new 6th district, to the areas around Charlottesville, Lynchburg, and around there. And that's in contrast to, well, redistricting has drawn a lot of opportunists. There's some guy I've never heard of who lives way east of here in Richmond who's just declared for the new 6th district. And in the new 7th district, the one that goes from Louisa up to Arlington, we now apparently have, challenging Dan Helmer, we're going to have Dorothy McAuliffe, who is the wife of former governor and longtime Clinton political fixer Terry McAuliffe. Look, I'm a guy who's not a lifelong politician. I'm only running because of issues I strongly believe in. So I gotta say that I really look askance at some of these people who spent their whole lives in the orbit of Washington, D.C., who are part of some powerful political family who kind of think a seat in Congress is their entitlement just because they know a lot of important people. And that brings me back to why I'm running, and the reason people should want to pick me over the other Democratic candidates we've got in this new 6th district. The redistricting really doesn't change the case for me. My decision to run came a few days after I finished this book, which gathers together the big picture of Donald Trump's abuses of executive power and his attempt to make himself into the sole decision maker in our government. And just a few days after that, he tried to have Jimmy Kimmel pulled off the air, basically just for criticizing the president. I looked around and I asked, well, what are Democrats saying about this? And I heard Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer say something about how Democrats are, quote, focused like a laser on affordability. And I just realized how much this was not meeting the moment. And then I looked to see who was running for Congress in my own district, and all I saw was more of the same. I saw people using very boilerplate, focus grouped, standard issue political messages, and they all got the memo to talk only about affordability and not talk about the fact that the very foundations of a free society are being ripped out from underneath us. And I decided that somebody had to talk about it. And I could complain about this and shout about this, or I could go out and do something about it myself. That's why I'm here. And that's why I'm still here, running in the current 5th district and in the likely future 6th, because we need someone who is meeting the moment, who realizes we can't really do anything else, including all the things we want to do on affordability. We can't do that until we do this one big thing. And it doesn't really matter if we put more Democrats in Congress if Congress is not going to reassert its power. I'm the only one in this race, in this district, putting those things front and center. The only one who has a lifetime of preparation specifically to take on these issues. That's why I haven't changed my plans with the change of districts, and that's what I'm asking you to vote for.